Okay, hi everybody. It is the next day from last night, and I've decided it's a part 2 because day 61, so it's continuing on day 60. Day 61 is lilac and purple, and that wasn't really the theme of this, so I wanted to continue on. I see lilac and purple a bit differently. It reminds me of Mrs. Bouquet. You know, Mrs. Bucket from that show, that television show, and she refuses to call herself Mrs. Bucket. She says she's Mrs. Bouquet. She always wears lilac-y, purpley kind of colours, and I have got a bit of it in this book. So I might get round to it, and it might be a part of this book. Anyway, here we are. Yeah, just to recap. I've stuck a bit of washi over here to make a bit of difference, and I've got some things that I want to add. Now this is a little map of where the platypus is. This was from an old National Geographic, and I'm just going to go along and do some of these things. It might be a bit of a short part too. It's a beautiful morning. It's been very nice. Lily stayed at her friend's for 2 nights, so I went and decided I would sleep back in my bed again just for last night anyway. I didn't sleep in there the night before because I wasn't sure if she was coming home, but she's still at her friend's place. And so I've had a bit of space to do all my art and craft and get my head around it all, and a good night's sleep. And my flatmate has finally, again, it's been such a thing. I mean, really, honestly, she is gone back to work this morning because she got a negative result on her COVID test, and one thing after another. First it was broken ankle, then it was COVID, then it was grandpa died, then it was gotta wait and get a test for COVID because she took an extra day off because her grandpa died, and got it wait. Now how am I going to do this? I'm just being quite aware of not showing what the book is because I just don't think it's actually out of copyright. I'm just going to put that off screen for a second while I do this. So I pre-made and I had a bit of fun sewing a bit of material on. So this is the Australiana theme. While I was growing up in the 70s and in the 80s, and when I had my own house, Hoya wax flowers were all the rage, and I had one in the first house I lived in. And I've continued the yellow theme, and these were the little material stamp snippets I made. Can't remember what day it was. Anyway, it was a while ago. And I saw them and I just thought, oh, I really wanted to add them in. So I've sewn onto this, and I'm going to cover. This is how I'm making little pages to cover. So they're using cards, they're using a bit of sewing, but to cover up the original type of the book. And as I say, I think it's probably not quite out of copyright, but I might be wrong. You know, it may actually be quite all right. But I'm just being a bit more cautious about it, just in case. This is glitter glue I'm using, and I'm risking it not going through the material. Alright, sometimes, so as not to use all glitter glue, I'll put a bit of glue stick in the middle of the paper. Let me quickly secretly do this off camera. Here we go. Oh, there's a bit showing. Whoopsie. There you go. I will cover that too. I mean, really, in Australia, we're pretty lucky actually in Australia. It's not like, or, well, it's not like America, but where all sorts of people sue everyone left, right and centre. I think it's a bit harder growing up, you know, for the age, for anyone who was born pre the 70s, 60s and, you know, earlier. I think I'm going to have a rant. Yes, I am going to have a rant. I really think that, here's another page I've got to cover. What am I doing? I'm having a rant, but I'm also trying to think of art at the same time. I think anyone who was born that early, possibly, for ages I didn't have trouble. I kind of felt like I was part of the world, and still am, of course, and still do to a certain extent. I don't feel alienated so much from the world. I'm actually, probably it's more like, I don't know, I guess a bit of a sadness that the world has become so, in the time since we've had our, you know, internet and all of that, it's sort of a bit like the world's become so cluttered and congested and selfish and all of that, that it's sort of sad. I don't know about you. I just try to find joy. Classic, that's my entire life, is how do I, you know, finding joy. And we could just ignore that all that bad stuff's happening, but it is actually valid to be educated about it, for sure. Definitely valid to be educated about how insidious racism is, for sure. I actually even saw something the other day, and I think I commented you know, a little while ago, I think I commented about an ad I'd seen where there was a black hand with a big cross over it. It was a sewing thing, saying they were doing the wrong thing, and then there was I think, am I off camera for that? Yes, the page is off camera. And the white hand was doing the right thing. So we do have systematic racism that we don't even notice in advertising and stuff like that. And the only reason I brought that up again is because I saw another ad which had the black hand in there doing, and it was a Mac ad, it was a Macintosh ad. It was like, here's a hand doing the wrong thing, and it was a black hand, and here's a hand doing the right thing, and it was a white hand. And it's amazing the amount of racism that you see when you start to look. Anyway, stop the ranting, Christina. I found a straw flower, and keeping with a bit of a yellow sand beach theme, straw flowers are in where's my scissors? In Western Australia, quite well known for its beautiful, amazing wildflowers. Now, I went over when I was pregnant with my first child because the girl's dad, we're not together anymore, but was originally from Perth. So it was the first time we went over to have a bit of a visit and to, you know, for him to catch up with relatives he may not have seen for a long time, show off his pregnant wife, whatever, whatever we were doing. But while we were there, it was wildflower season and it was just amazing. It was just gorgeous. So I'm putting a straw flower there. Remove this. I'm loving this book, by the way. I'm just really enjoying it. Even though I fill up the time with rants about racism. Okay, glitter glue. Because you can get this little fine nib up those bits there. I feel like I'm back in normal form now without having all the interruptions. Kids coming back home. What is this? Oh, I love it. It's great. I'm enjoying hanging out. It's so nice. Not getting as much done, but oh, it's so nice. Feel normal. One of my friends said, here's another rant, the other day, during lockdown, what she noticed was how close she was with her daughter and how, because she couldn't see her daughter during lockdown, she was really feeling what it's like to feel empty nest syndrome. And, oh, the sun's come out. How beautiful. Now I've got to just double check if I've covered. I haven't covered that. Let me cover that. Alright, so she was noticing empty nest syndrome, and I don't know about anyone else, but if you are a mum who's been a single mum for a long time and you put everything into your kids because you don't actually necessarily have, you know, you're not split in 1,000 directions, that's my take on it anyway. I know that when we split up that I enjoyed not being split in 1,000 different directions and could just, you know, focus through the teenage years on my kids. But then when they leave home, you've got nothing and no one. Well, you can find people, of course. That's always a possibility. Where am I going with that? I don't know. It's just really nice to have my daughter back and to enjoy spending time with her again, really. She's 25. So we've been having coffee and cake, which is lovely. Moving right along. So from the other day, I made... Now, what page was that? That was... I'm just looking on my little list. Was that the free day? I think it might have been. Day 53, I think. Anyway, I'd made these little envelopes with these little tuck spots and cards, so little writing, using tracing paper. I was enjoying having a bit of a go and put a bit of doily on there. So, right, I can show this page. I haven't covered over that page. Don't need that there anymore, do I? No, done that. Don't need that there anymore. And I put the other one on this side. So, so why did I put them in when I wasn't thinking Australiana? When I grew up, and this is also sort of a platypus story too, where I grew up, in Mount Evelyn, we had one of those big sloping blocks, and down the bottom was a creek, and every Saturday afternoon my brother and I would go for great big, and this is the leech story I was talking about in the prior one that I hadn't kind of gotten around to talking about. We would go on really long walks, so Saturday, you know, after lunch, we've had a sleep in after school, we've had breakfast, we've had our sardines on toast, which is what we always had. on a Saturday or Sunday morning. Well, it was maybe Saturday morning. We made it ourselves. And we would go for massive long walks in the back, down the back, down near the river. And what would happen was we would get caught down under all these trees and so there were lots of ferns. So this is the point of this story and why the card is in, because it reminds me of my childhood and all the ferns. All the ferns, and also with that other one, the maidenhair. We had lots of maidenhair growing outside around our house, and we had indoor plants with maidenhair. So these walks we would go, and if it was a bit wet or a bit damp, even though it was under the trees, we would find leeches down our gumboots, falling on I have no idea why they were falling. I just noticed my camera. Oh my God, it's really wonky. Sorry about that. Too late. That's how it's going to be now. We would find these leeches, and now I'm just putting this as a writing spot. Yeah, so I got home one day and there was a leech down my gumboot, and it was stuck to me. And you know how you get leeches off? You put salt on them and they dry out and shrivel up. Anyway, that's part of my upbringing, and that's why those cards are there, because that reminds me of my walks with my brother. So I stuck that little platypus on there. That's out of a really old National Geographic. Let me just double check something. Right, okay, put that over here. Another page I haven't done. But I'm actually considering leaving that page because I like the little story on it. So last night, so that finished with the leeches, yes. God, I ramble. Sometimes I just ramble right on. Anyway, that's two stories in my head that are going on. The leeches I finished with. The plants I finished with. The wildflowers I almost finished with, but I haven't quite finished with. So over here, I have put on a poppy because I love poppies and I've always grown poppies. This is a red poppy, so this reminds me of Anzac Day. I don't really... I admire people who thought they were doing the right thing for their country, and I support them, but I don't believe in war, and I don't believe in the world fighting the way it does, and how the incredible insanity of some people that think killing other people is normal. It's just not. It's just not normal. It's not normal. Full stop. But Anzac Day, anyway, red poppies are a part of... Even when I was little, there would be an old man selling the little red poppies out the front of the store. Okay. So this was from another... There's these... I've got another one up here. I've got my little booklet, which I'll show you I finished. These were little sort of postcards out of an old National Geographic, and they were really, here's a Christmas gift of National Geographic. So this was one of them. There's beautiful parrots. This looks like it's out in the back of New South Wales somewhere, out in the country. Gorgeous. And I've always liked Love in the Mists, and so I put this. These little cards are off the Biodiversity Heritage website for free. You can just download them. And I made a little tuck spot. So I've added some of the paper, flowers. It's a very big part of my Australian upbringing, a bit of the washi tape. This reminds me of, it's a bit confetti-ish, the washi that I've used here. So this is this washi reminds me, and it's here on this side too. Oh, the sun's beautiful. Got my back to it, so it's not getting too much. Where's the pin for my glue gone? Goodness me. there it is. Anyway, what was I saying? I'm just going to say I have 1,000 things going on in my head at any one time. For anyone who gets that, you'll know. You'll get it. The washi reminds me of art, graphic art, etc. There's a little tuck spot. This reminds me of Christmas. I love all this stuff, obviously. Here's another card off the biodiversity website, and this is I grew California poppies when I was living in Rosanna, the big 5-bedroom family home we had. That when the girls, well, when one of my daughters moved out, it just was too big. I just could not look after it. Anyway. So I've washed some paper, put some paper, and this is a really quite thick washi, so I've put that around, and I wanted to just cover up a bit more. And this is, I just did some stamping onto some fine, you know, wrapping paper that someone had sent out. I don't know what side it is. And the reason that I'm putting this in is because I made it myself, of course, but also because, you know, part of a childhood growing up is ladybirds. That's part of my childhood growing up. I didn't grow up in buildings in the city or anything like that. So I thought I'd add some kookaburras to this page, and just to add a bit of interest, put this, make a collage. Christmas reminder, kookaburras reminder, ladybirds reminder, and I've put, this is the you know, from the cover. I still had some scraps spare, so I have been putting it in different places to add to the collage, and this is the beach theme in the end papers. Now I haven't done any more other than put 2 end papers, and the book was really falling apart, so I've used this, you know, this beautiful graphic, almost abstract. It's not totally abstract because it's got bits of plants and it's got a cactus. But this is I love this. I just love it. That's why I do my little abstractor days sometimes. Not every day, obviously. I get distracted. Anyway, I will get back to that series again. And done the end paper. So I've still got a few pages to go. But that's where I'm up to now for this little part 2. I've still got to work out somewhere to put this little clownfish. So the clownfish is I don't know if it's probably, it could be other places in the world, but it's definitely a part of the Australian Great Barrier Reef before oil and global warming started. I'm really I am on a total political rant today. Started ruining it, and but however, there are still clownfish there, and I love clownfish. I think they're gorgeous. And oh yes, that's right, I was going to show you. I should quit while I'm ahead today. I think I've just, Lily's disappeared for a while, and I've gone back to being insane crazy grandma artist, but without being a grandma, which is pretty awesome, I think, don't you? I don't care whether anyone likes that or not. I've put a little lace bow around it to hold it, but here it is, my little flowery kookaburra and my flowery cassowary. And I also made, I'm going to do a little tutorial, and I think there's 1 or 2 tutorials, otherwise, you know, that's where I got the idea from. Making a torn edge off a card and putting some form of die cut gritty lacy type of thing, and I liked that, so I made that and stuck that on the middle because I couldn't work out what else. So when it's shut, it's got this little edge, and I just put a bit of yellow on the back because I think what's going to happen is it's going to tuck into something, and this will be writing spot So there you have it. And I think it's pretty. I'm not quite sure what it's going to go into because it's a bit thick and bulky, but I'll work it out. So for now, that's where we're at with this in part 2. A cute little book. Could go on the front even. It could be a supplementary little present, like I did with, I'm just going to show you. Got distracted again. Okay, so like I did with this little manga book, it's wrapped up. It's got the 2 little extra bits stuck on, little writing spots, little manga thing, and a big, using some of the manga pages, little trifold, 4-fold, quarter-fold, and the little book. This is an altered book made from an old manga book which I discovered. Anyway, I'll put the link below. There's a 4-part series on me making it, which was great fun, except I realised halfway through that I did not know that the story was actually a spooky, horrible, insane, haunted clown story. So I had to cover up a lot of stuff. I still used some of the imagery because I liked it, but I have no idea what the words said. And I used biodiversity website some old fossils in tuck spots. Anyway, that I will link below because that was great fun to make, and I've segued again, but you know, this is what you can do. If you make a little journal book, you can make, if this card was too big, this was too thick, you can just tie them together and give them either as a present or sell them wherever you sell things. Etsy, the market, wherever. I'm thinking I might have a market stall. I've said that once or twice. I've never done that before. It's always something new. Anyway, that's it. I'll speak to you later.